On the east coast of South India, the very tip that juts out into the sea is called Point Calimere. In 1967, the area around this point was declared a sanctuary for the blackbuck, a rare species of antelope native to India. The gateway to this coastal refuge is the small village of Kodiakarai, whose inhabitants eke out a living by fishing in the sea and in a vast adjoining swamp. For most of the year, nothing much seems to happen in this hidden corner of India. But in winter, there is a dramatic change. The arrival of thousands of waterfowl in the swamps transforms the sleepy sanctuary into a haven for bird watchers. Because of its importance to migratory birds from all over India and beyond, Point Calimere was declared a Ramsar site, a designation given to wetlands of international significance. The birds begin to arrive in October after the onset of the winter monsoon. Greater flamingos are believed to come here from the Rann of Kutch in Gujarat and from as far away as Iran and the Caspian Sea. Other birds come from even further away, with the smallest species flying the greatest distances, like the little ring plover, which travels all the way to South India from southern Russia. An even more amazing journey is made by the little stint, which flies in from the Arctic Circle over 8,000 kilometers away. Of course, there are local migrants as well, such as the flocks of painted storks, which come from neighboring areas in search of fish. The flamingos are by far the most spectacular visitors to Point Calimere. For such large birds, they feed on tiny organisms, insect larvae and brine shrimp. In fact, the pink coloration in their feathers comes from carotenoids in the food they eat. By pressing the mud, they stir up food particles that are then filtered by the specialized beak. It's like watching a ballet. In December 2004, the South Asian tsunami slammed into Point Calimere, damaging an ancient lighthouse on the shore. A large piece of the structure was broken off and flung over 100 meters away. Luckily, no animals died, and when the giant waves receded, it was back to business as usual for the creatures on the beach, like the shore crabs. At low tide, the matchbox-sized crabs emerge from their burrows to feed. It might look like they are eating the sand, but actually, the food is hidden between the sand grains, microscopic organisms known as interstitial fauna. With factory-like efficiency, the nutrients are separated from the wet sand, which is then expelled as tiny pellets. While feeding intently, the crabs sometimes fall prey to aerial predators, like the Brahmani kite. A wise crab never strays far from home. Winter and spring nights bring nocturnal visitors to Point Calimere, pregnant olive ridley sea turtles. The 50-kilo reptile is a superb swimmer, but not very good on land. Luckily, she doesn't have to go far. Once beyond the high tide line, she makes a shallow body pit with her front flippers. Then, using her hind flippers, she scoops out a deep hole into which she will lay over 100 eggs, each the size of a ping-pong ball. When all the eggs are laid, she fills in the hole and camouflages the nest. The eggs will hatch on their own about 50 to 60 days after the female returns to the sea. Beyond the beach is a unique forest full of medicinal plants. Many of these species have become very rare outside the sanctuary. Even here, a few species are sometimes uprooted and taken away for domestic cultivation. After the monsoon, the ground too is carpeted with flowers, and amongst them is an unusual plant the size of a small coin, the sundew. This strange plant with thick, fleshy leaves has a unique trait. It is carnivorous. It secretes a sticky liquid to trap unsuspecting insects. The ant cannot escape. Its eventual death will nourish the plant. Fortunately for the ants, the sundew is short-lived. It appears during the monsoon and disappears when the land begins to dry out. For the sanctuary's blackbuck, the receding water means more land for grazing. While most of the females are heavily pregnant, some have already given birth. The newborn calves stay hidden in the undergrowth, concealed from the eyes of predators. Adult blackbuck are usually too fast for village dogs, but young calves are always at risk. The calf avoids detection by staying absolutely still. It's now the end of the rutting season. Blackbuck males are territorial during the breeding season and keep a careful watch over their females. Males without territories must joust with one another to establish rank. Point Calimere has one of the largest populations of blackbuck in South India, thanks to its open habitat near the coast. While predators kill a few each year, a greater threat actually comes from another herbivore, domestic cattle. Soon after the monsoon, about 400 cattle from nearby villages enter the sanctuary to graze on the fresh grass. The cattle are voracious, and each cow or bull consumes as much grass as 4 or 5 blackbuck. Their presence in the sanctuary benefits only one creature, the dung beetle. Fresh dung is vital to the beetle's existence. On discovering a pile, it immediately sets about making a ball from it. It will lay an egg in the ball, and the larva that hatches will feed on the dung for its growth. The beetle is a diligent worker, and its goal is a perfect sphere the size of a golf ball. It's hard work, and if the beetle isn't watchful, there are those waiting to steal the ball away. After a successful battle, the victor trundles off to find a suitable place to bury the ball. At any given time, there are several beetles on the same mission, and they will overcome all kinds of obstacles in their search for a perfect place. When the beetle finally finds the right spot, it digs a hole to bury the ball. But as with golf, putting the ball into the hole isn't easy, especially when you're trying to do it backwards. Oops, missed again. Village cattle aren't the only large domestic animals in Point Calimere. The sanctuary is well known for its feral ponies. These are the descendants of pack animals abandoned by local traders many decades ago. About 50 of them roam free in the sanctuary. Winter brings many species of seabirds to Point Calimere, seagulls and terns of several species which come from as far away as Europe. They fly back and forth between Point Calimere and northern Sri Lanka, which is a mere 50 kilometers away across the Park Strait. In fact, legend has it that this shrine in the sanctuary marks the spot where Lord Rama stood and looked towards Lanka before invading it from further south. By the end of January, the last seasonal water bodies begin to dry up, leaving just a few permanent water holes for the rest of summer. Many species of mammals in the sanctuary, like the spotted deer, aren't native to Point Calimere. They were introduced here from neighboring areas and have multiplied over the years. The pigs come here not just to drink, but to wallow in the cool mud. The traffic on the main road to Kodiakarai village is not merely a nuisance to the wildlife, but a cause of fatal accidents as well. Fortunately, most of the other waterholes are well away from the road, and the animals can drink in peace. Bonnet monkeys too are not native to Point Calimere. Problem monkeys that were trapped in nearby towns and villages were released here and have steadily increased in numbers. Jackals are native to this landscape and are its top natural predators. As the day progresses, the waterhole becomes busier. Most of its visitors come here to drink, but some, like the pied wagtail, are attracted to the insects at the water's edge. These are spotted doves. For mongooses, partridges, and a variety of other creatures, Point Calimere is a vital refuge, but the sanctuary faces many threats. From a watchtower, the forest may look endless, but from higher up, its true size is revealed, a mere 18 square kilometers. And even this is under threat from a cancerous growth that is spreading fast. A tree called Prosopis juliflora. An invasive alien species from South America, Prosopis was introduced into India for firewood and has spread far and wide. The ponies, aliens themselves, are its main allies in Point Calimere. They feed on the pods and spread the seeds everywhere through their dung. Taking root easily in the sandy soil, Prosopis has been advancing rapidly all the way to the seashore. It's a hardy species that is difficult to eradicate, but if its spread isn't curtailed, the blackbuck will lose the open habitat they need. Prosopis has also begun to creep into the unique coastal forest, posing a threat to its biodiversity. In the wetlands too, all isn't well. Over the years, there's been a steep decline in bird arrivals. Until the early 1980s, an estimated 50,000 flamingos used to visit Point Calimere. Today, their numbers are down to a mere 10,000. The same trend is also seen with other species. Over 200,000 little stints used to winter in Point Calimere 20 years ago. Now, only about 50,000 arrive every year. Wild ducks, such as shovelers and pintails, used to flock by the thousands, but not anymore. And unlike in the past, the flamingos that visit Point Calimere now don't stay for long. After just a few weeks here, they head south to a lagoon near the temple town of Rameshwaram. Scientists believe that there may be several factors behind the bird decline in Point Calimere. Many of the rivers that fed the swarms have gradually dried up, reducing the inflow of fresh water. But there is a serious problem that makes it worse: salt production. Local people have been manufacturing salt here for over a century, but this small-scale operation is restricted to just one end of the swamp. Of more serious concern are two factories in the region that manufacture marine chemicals. For decades, the factories have been pumping in vast volumes of seawater into the swamps. The salt is concentrated through evaporation in holding pans covering thousands of acres, drastically increasing the salinity of the water and disrupting the fragile food chain. The resulting decrease in food is believed to be a major cause for the bird decline. In stark contrast, nearby wetlands without salt factories still continue to attract waterfowl in large numbers, like this marsh about 200 kilometers north of Point Calimere. The pumping of seawater into the swamps of Point Calimere needs careful study. It's possible that with proper water management, this immensely important wetland can be restored once again to become the bird paradise it used to be. Spring soon gives way to a long, scorching summer. The heat sucks the land dry. When the fish begin gasping for life, it's time for the birds to return to their homelands. Every day, the swamps are more deserted. Soon, even these birds will be gone. But hopefully, they will return in winter to liven up this little kingdom by the coast.